How you doing? It's Jim Fisher. Welcome to the Third Way. Not left, not right. America's Third Way, libertarianism. Today I wanted to talk about the Austrian business cycle. And I'm sure that sounds like a thrilling subject, but it is very, very important that the American public understands basic economic theory of the Austrian business cycle. So let me start by saying, there's kind of two, and you could maybe say three, competing thoughts of economics present in our political system. Our politicians and most of our economists are Keynesian or mainstream or Chicago Friedman / Schwartz economists. And there are some big difference between the Chicago school of thought and the Keynesian school of thought. In 1946, a man named John Maynard Keynes wrote the general theory, and that is what has led to Keynesian economics. The textbook, the Stoddard textbook that's used in most economics classes today in college, stems from Keynesian theory. And basically what that says is that recessions are caused by a change in quote-unquote animal spirits. That's not my phrase, that's Keynes' phrase. But basically what that means is that people's behavior would suddenly change inexplicably. Their buying habits, their demand for particular products were just up and change, and Keynes couldn't really put his finger on it, so he would just call it the animal spirits. And that would be the reason for kind of a mix-up in the economy. So the theory was that you had factories and machinery that was vacant, that needed workers, and workers that needed jobs. So you could kind of think of it as everybody went to bed at night and a bunch of trolls came in the country and rearranged everything. And they moved all the factories in Chicago to California, and all the workers got dispersed on the East Coast, and so on and so on. And the government just needs to create increased aggregate demand, and they will bring these resources back together. And that's why you see them trying to pass the stimulus bill. All Democrats and even most Republicans buy into Keynesian theory. Even Bush said right after 9/11, you need to go to the malls and spend your money. So what is Austrian business cycle theory? It directly contrasts Keynesian theory. And the Austrians don't see animal spirits as the root cause of a recession or a depression. The Austrians see the root cause of depressions as an increase in the monetary supply and an artificial decrease in the interest rate. So let's start by explaining what the interest rate is. What is the interest rate? The interest rate that when you go to the bank to get a home loan or a loan for a new business, or whatever you decide to borrow for, the interest rate is decided by, it is a price. It is a price just like anything. And we all can understand supply and demand. The more supply, the less demand, the cheaper the price. Vice versa, the higher the price. And that's a concept we all understand. Well, an interest rate is the exact same thing. The more supply of money there is, and the less people that want to borrow it, the lower the interest rate. And the more people that want to borrow money, and the less supply of money there is, the higher the interest rate. So basically what that means is if the American public saves a lot of money, that increases the supply, then drops the interest rate. Until you get the exact same amount of people that want to borrow that money, then the interest rate will balance off at a low price. And vice versa. If a lot of people want to borrow money, but there's not a lot of people saving money, well, the interest rate rises until you get, so the higher the interest rate goes up, the more apt you are to want to put your money in the bank. And so the interest rate moves until you get the same amount of people that want to borrow money versus people that want to save money. So when you decide you want to put money in the bank, what are you actually saying? When you go to the bank and deposit money, what you're doing is you're saying, I'm exchanging purchase of goods today for purchase of goods in the future. That's what you're saying. I want to put my money here. I'm going to make some X amount of interest off it. But what you're really saying is, I'm not going to buy goods right now. In exchange for, I'm going to buy goods in the future with this money. So I'm putting it in the bank to save it. And vice versa. When somebody borrows money, an entrepreneur wants to start a new business, they leave whatever work they're doing to start a new business. So they're exchanging goods or services produced today for goods or services produced in the future. So the interest rate ensures that there's a balance between the two. It serves a really important function in our economy by ensuring that when you want to save money, so if let's say you have $1 trillion and you want to save it, and you're saying, I'm going to exchange goods today for $1 trillion of goods in the future, you're going to really drive down the interest rate because you're going to increase the supply of money big time, right? Well, so the interest rate's going to fall until the same amount of people want to borrow $1 trillion. And so what you're forcing an exchange of goods or services produced today for goods or services produced in the future. So you're ensuring that the goods produced today versus goods produced in the future balance out. And that's basically Austrian economic theory. And that the interest rate serves a function of ensuring the correct balance of goods and services produced today and bought today versus goods and services produced in the future and bought in the future. So the more people that save their money, that creates more investors because it drives down the interest rate. More entrepreneurs. So let's say you wanted to get into the building housing and the interest rate's at 10%, and you want to buy a $300,000 house, and you can sell it for $330,000, but it's going to take you a year to fix it up. Well, you're going to pay $30,000 in interest at a 10% interest rate. So you can't make any money that way. But if the interest rate falls to 3%, now you're only going to pay $9,000 in interest, and you can make $27,000. So it'll change your mind as far as whether or not you want to get into the housing market. So the interest rate dropping creates more entrepreneurs. So that's a very important concept. So basically, what causes a depression is the government, or the Fed, not the government. The Fed prints money, and they artificially drive down the interest rate. That's how the Fed gets money into the economy. They print it, they pull it out of thin air, basically, and the excess supply of money drives down the interest rate, causes people to invest, and then so you're removing goods produced today for goods produced in the future. The problem is it didn't equate to people saving, so there's no resource to purchase those investments in the future because there was no savings created. It was an artificial drive down of the interest rate. So, and as we saw in this housing bubble, so the Fed prints a crap load of money like they did all through from Alan Greenspan did all through 2000 and 2001, 2003, prints a ton of money, drives down the interest rate. Everybody sees basically a 0% interest rate, and so everybody says, I want to get in on this. I can borrow money for almost nothing. So everybody's buying houses because that was the easiest thing to get into was real estate. Except nobody was actually saving their money. So there was no ability to purchase those houses in the future. And so we disturbed that balance of goods, people exchanging goods purchased today for goods purchased in the future. That didn't actually happen. It was an artificial drive down in the interest rate. Thus, we have a collapse in the housing market. So that is the reason that we are in this depression or recession, or whatever you want to call it. It has nothing to do with Frank Dodd legislation or bank deregulation or all the other fallacies that you hear. That is the reason for our housing crisis. It's directly related to the Fed. So I hope this makes sense to you. I'll probably do another video blog on this and kind of expand on Austrian business cycle theory. Jim Fisher signing off for now. On the third way, not left, not right, America's third way, libertarianism.